Now we'll talk about the procedure for creation of collective investment schemes. The procedure is as follows. One is that the manager, I've defined these terms before, so you should know what a manager is by now. That is the company handling the collective investment scheme. The manager must be an incorporated company. It must obtain incorporation under CAMA and also be registered with SEC. It must have the capital and reserve fund as may be prescribed by SEC. You can see section 160 sub 3 paragraph B of Investment and Securities Act. So after this stage is passed, that is the stage of incorporation with CAMA, registration with SEC, and keeping of the capital and reserve fund, then you prepare the trust deed or custodian agreement. You can see section 160 sub 3 paragraph D of ESA. Then the third is the registration of units or securities with SEC. So if the scheme is going to be dealing in units or securities, it should be registered with Securities and Exchange Commission by virtue of section 161 of ESA. Then the next is approval of prospectus and other offer documents of the scheme. So that is also if it's going to be dealing in shares, units, or securities, it has to prepare a prospectus, make sure it is registered, as I said earlier, at least 6 months before time. Then you also know that if they make any untrue statements in the prospectus, the liabilities, both civil and criminal, as we discussed earlier, will attach. Then the manager would determine the market price of the units or securities by virtue of section 170 of ESA. Then the investment of a collective scheme by the manager in accordance with the provisions of the trust deed. So the manager will invest the funds contributed in a particular venture as provided in the trust deed. Now, also know that the manager may invest the fund and assets of a scheme in units of any investment fund, provided it is within the approved category of the investments set out in section 171 sub 2 of ESA. Then, where the interest of the scheme or that of its beneficiaries demand, SEC may impose additional restrictions on investments by the manager. Then the next is that the manager shall have due regard to the risk rating of instruments that has been undertaken by a rating company registered under the Act. So this is basically the procedure for creation of collective investment scheme. Once the manager obtains incorporation under CAMA, registration with SEC, keeping of the capital and reserve fund, you prepare the trust deed, you register the units or securities with SEC if they are going to be dealing in units and securities. You prepare the prospectus, make sure it is approved and registered, then determine the market price of those units and securities. Then the money contributed should be invested in a particular trust scheme, in a particular scheme or investment fund as seen fit by the manager. So that's for the creation of collective investment schemes.